In the last project of Chapter 6, we're going to take a look at how we can track changes to a workbook. And we've actually seen a little bit of the track changes capabilities when we shared a workbook. And this is kind of another alternative to tracking changes and saving a work or sharing a workbook. When you turn the track changes feature on, it automatically puts it in shared mode. So we'll go through this. You can kind of see the variety of ways in which tracking changes and sharing are very similar. In our particular scenario here, we're going to turn on the track changes feature and then assume two different roles, I guess a total of 3 different roles, scenarios where 3 different individuals, I guess it's 2 different individuals are making changes to the workbook, and then we'll track those changes as the original user. So right now they've asked us to open up this Cut Rate West Region workbook. I've already saved it as indicated in Project 3A. And then to begin the track changes path and feature, we're going to do that by going to the Review tab, and in the Changes group, click on Track Changes, and then click on Highlight Changes. You'll notice here when you click on the checkbox, it says Track Changes while editing, and this also shares your workbook. So click on that to turn it on. And the one thing that's a little bit different is you can pass the workbook back and forth through through email or whatever. It doesn't necessarily have to be on a network where everybody can pull it at the same time. And that's the advantage of sharing a workbook. But this particular example, I could work on a workbook and then send it or email it to somebody else, and it will track the changes that have been made by that other user. So in the dialog box here, we want to make some changes to this. We just want to make sure that the checkbox for when is selected and it has all for that, and also the who should be everyone, and I think that's already set as well, and I think that's it. So we'll just click OK to that. It'll say that it'll save the workbook, which we want to do that. Notice it's in shared mode at this point. Okay. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and close out of this. We're still in Excel, but they want us to change usernames. We're going to make the assumption that we're operating under a different name. They want us to have the username being Tony Sanchez. So again, under the Generals tab, change that to Tony Sanchez. And then we're going to open up that same workbook. Notice it's the shared workbook, but as we open that, we're going to go to a variety of cells and make some changes to those cells. We'll save it, close it, and then we'll act as a different user. So we're going to initially go to cell C10. We're going to change that from 124 to 146. F10, change that from 22 to 47. I10, I'm going to change that from 22 to 31. L10, change that from 8 to 12. Alright, so Tony has made the changes that are necessary. I'm going to save that, close out of it. Okay, now we're going to assume to be a different user, Sam Forwell. So again, I'm going to go back to the options area. Change it to Sam Forwell. Again, we're going to open that same workbook. This time we're going to go to C6. We're going to change that from 362 to 391. F6 is going to be from 165 to 173. I6 be from 33 to 46. L6, we're going to change that from 15 to 11. And again, we're going to save it, close out of it. Now those 2 individuals have made their changes. We're going to go back and assume that we are ourselves again. So I'm going to type in my username. And now, as manager, we're going to open up that same workbook and see what changes have been made by Tony and by Sam. Okay, so to do that, we're going to highlight the cells with the changes that have been made by all these users. I'm going to go back to the Review tab, Changes area, click on the Track Changes, and then, you know what, before I do that, let me go to the Home, A1, to start at the top. And then we'll go to Accept Reject Changes. And it's going to bring up select changes to accept from all those that haven't been reviewed yet, because we haven't reviewed Sam or Tony's changes. So we're going to leave that as is. The who is still going to be everyone. We'll just go ahead and click on that just to be sure. And then we'll click OK. And that'll go to the first change that was made as far as in time-wise. Tony was the person that made that change. And then you can just go through and make the selections there of accepting and rejecting. And at the bottom of page 204 in Project 3C, they kind of give you an indicator as to what you're supposed to do with each one of those cells. I'll just randomly choose these. I'm not going through and looking at them, but we'll accept the first one. Then it goes to the next one. We'll accept it. The third one will reject it. The fourth one will accept it. Accept, reject. You could also, if you know that these individuals really have the appropriate information, you can choose accept all, or you could have chosen reject all. So great tool for being able to just kind of keep track of individuals who are making changes to your workbook, and then you as the creator of the workbook or the maintainer of the workbook have control over whether you accept or reject those changes. Okay, so that concludes chapter 6. The concepts check is on pages 207 and 208, so you want to make sure that you look through those, and then make sure that you complete the assessments just to ensure that you understand the features that were introduced in chapter 6. And as always, if you have questions, feel free to email me or call me.